Good morning, everybody, and thank you again for being here with us this morning for our weekly Sunday Sunrise Support Group call. I'm always so grateful that we are all here together and have an opportunity to share and to love on one another in this safe space that's filled with love and compassion and our mutual desire to heal ourselves and our families. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I am so honored to have with us this morning an incredible woman named Janecia Davis, better known as Jay. We're going to call her Jay this morning. Jay is a spiritual well-being expert and an intuitive leader dedicated to mental health and the well-being of those who shape our communities and workplace culture. A Columbia University graduate with a master's in clinical psychology and over 13 years of experience in leadership, management, and operations and facilities, Jay is committed to helping people align their purpose with their daily lives, both personally and professionally. She has a strong passion for shaping culture in the workplace and in our communities. Jay is one of 13 children with deep roots in the inner city. She grew up in Boston, and she exemplifies perseverance. She's also dedicated to supporting other women as they turn obstacles into opportunities for success. Jay is a wife, a mother of two young children, aged 2 and 3, and she's a professional. And her motto is, quote, "You really can have it all," end quote. So I am so honored and happy to have with us this morning Janecia Davis. Welcome, Janecia. We are happy you are here with us this morning to talk about the power of perseverance and resilience, and how we too, despite our challenges, how we really can have it all. I love that quote that you share and your motto and how you live your life. So let's jump right into the conversation. I'd love to start by having you introduce yourself, tell us about your background, and what molded you into who you are today and the work you do today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Well, it all started with my family. That's the foundation, honestly, for everything. Growing up in a family of 13 kids, things were very chaotic, hectic. And there was a period where my family and I just became homeless and we were moving from shelter to shelter. So I spent most of my teenage years in different shelters, transferring from school to school. I was like a new student to like 5 different high schools. So it really all started from my family and just really trying to understand, behaviors, trying to understand how is it that we could grow up in the same family and yet my brothers and sisters and I are so different. So I was very curious about human development. And that's how I got into studying clinical psychology. That's how I ended up exploring spirituality. Just really wanted to understand the human mind and the human heart. And that's kind of how I ended up I am today. And then I ended up working in leadership and management for facilities and operations. So I've worked with a lot of union employees, which always reminded me to never forget where I come from. Um, so that was being in facilities and management was a really good place too for remembering like that grounding piece that I am an inner city kid. And a lot of the people that I manage were low income. And a lot of them could be my mom. Like my mom used to be a custodian. Some of my sisters were custodians. So it really taught me how to really be, how to really be grateful and always stay true to who I am.
I'm on
Okay.
mute, so I unmuted myself.
Okay.
Two things I'd love to have you share more on. You talked about how different you and your brothers and sisters were, and
Yeah.
being one of 13, and being homeless multiple times, and then being in shelters. And how did you work through? You said you went to 5 different high schools, and that's in a 4-year period. So how
Right.
did you get through those tough times? And did you have any sort of support system, or was it you, dealing with it all on by yourself in high school?
Yeah. I honestly feel like I was really guided because sometimes I would wonder how I stayed motivated despite everyone around me. Like some of my sisters dropped out of school early, they had kids early and no judgment, right? This was the environment.
Mm,
Um, but for me, I just always I wanted answers. I wanted to understand why were these the conditions? Why
mhm,
was this happening in our environment? So I think it was my curiosity that gave me the ambition and the drive to want to know and understand why are things so dysfunctional and so broken? Why
mhm,
does this keep happening? Like my uncle, I can't tell you anyone in my family that I know that who's a nurse, a doctor, a firefighter. Like there was no one to aspire to.
mm,
So I'm
mhm.
like, well, I will be that person.
Wow.
I will be that person because there's just no one. I can't name anyone who I know that has been some type of role model for anyone in my family. And I'm like, damn, I have to create that. And that's what I'm gonna do.
Wow, that's phenomenal that you're able to overcome all of that. And so, when you graduated from high school, you went to Columbia, which is amazing. Did you do that immediately or did you take some time and work? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I graduated, I actually didn't get into psychology right away. I kind of wanted to enjoy school a little
Mhm,
more before I started studying trauma on studied because I felt like I've gone through so much trauma. I didn't want to like start taking the scab off yet. I'm like, I wasn't ready. So I went for fashion merchandising, which was fun. It was exciting. I learned how to sew. I learned how to make handbags. Learned how to make clothes. I had fun. So my intention was I wanted to enjoy my life since I felt like really couldn't when I was younger. I was always had to, help my mom babysit, always cleaning, lots of responsibilities. It was just always attending to the family's needs, never anything for me. So when I decided to go to undergrad was fashion because I'm like, this is for me. This is fun.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but then when you're calling calls, I kept, I just kept seeing the dysfunction in the family. I just need to understand the science behind the mind and why these behaviors continue. And then if you see as a society now, like, look at us. It's like we're just so much like we're broken as a culture.
mhm,
So I'm like, I'm gonna go. I was working at facilities and operations, and they had free tuition. It's funny how
mhm,
the universe works. I never aspired to go to Columbia. For me, it was never about status. Like I never cared about
mhm,
status. That was never important to me. What was important to me was living a good life and being happy
mhm,
and
mhm.
and feeling fulfilled. Like I
Yes,
was very clear on that because not having that as a kid made that what
a
the
desire.
exactly. That was
Mhm,
most important to me. So that was always clear to me throughout the entirety of all my decision making. And then after 2 years of working at Columbia, because I work at Columbia now for facilities and operations, you get 2 years free tuition. So I made the two
awesome.
years, right? I made the 2 years and then I applied and then I just been taking classes since. And I had my kids during that period, actually.
Wow, amazing. That's amazing. And so I'm still in awe that you had the wherewithal and the personal spirit, and um the passion to want more, and you're looking around, you said you didn't have anything to look at that you were aspiring to, but you knew that there was more out there. You knew that you could create a life and have happiness. So do you feel like today you're happy? Did you fulfill your dream to be happy? Are you in a good place today?
I love that question. Personally, absolutely. Like I have
Mhm.
family I envisioned. The family I have now is the family I wanted when I was a kid.
Amazing.
That family is having a supportive husband who's encouraging, who's caring. Like it took me a long time to even understand what a man was because I never saw a proper representation of that. So when one was before me, I almost didn't recognize that. And that was
Mhm.
interesting. It was my own studies and curiosities and him sharing, like things that were new to me that sharing my blind spots.
Yes.
I was like, let me listen so I can understand and learn what I don't know. And it was his insight. Then I would go research, I would go look for answers, I would go look for information. It was always my curiosity. I'm like, all right, I know there's dysfunction here because I grew up in a dysfunctional family. Not saying his life was perfect either. We would have those discussions, right? Like if there were things
Mhm.
that I thought, oh, hey man, you need to work on this.
Mhm.
When I
Mhm.
knew I was right and I felt I was right, we'd have that dialogue. And we always had that back and forth. Like, here's what you need to work on, here's what I need to work on, not a problem.
Mhm.
So, but yes, I do feel fulfilled as a wife and as a woman because I have an amazing partnership with my husband. Like he's my best friend. Like
That's awesome.
he is absolutely my best friend. And my kids, we've been through a lot. Like before we had two kids, we had two late-term miscarriages. So it's like to
Oh,
get here wasn't easy either. And it was always during those hard times when I wasn't my best self and when I was hurting the most, where he always showed me what a man was.
oh,
Always.
that's awesome. That's so beautiful. And I'm sorry for those two losses. I'm really sorry. And that speaks to, like you said, the perseverance and being open to a wonderful man that showed you what, a man is supposed to be like. And you shared for a hot second, you said, didn't see that representation growing up.
Mm,
I didn't see, and you're Afro-Latina from Boston, now living in New York.
yeah.
Did you ever have any positive view of men growing up? And did your mom do everything by herself? Was she a single mom?
My mom wasn't a single mom, but she was kind of like it. Like my stepfather was there, but what my stepfather showed us was that his kids, the kids he had with my mom were most important. So,
I see.
so he showed us. Like I have vivid memories of him buying like Happy Meals for his kids while we were hungry.
Oh no.
hmm So he would do things like that that I would always remember. Um, So yeah, I can't tell you, I have no representation of a man that I'm like, damn. And I have quite a few uncles. I have like five uncles.
Mm. Wow.
No, we don't have examples of that. And it's sad because I have seven brothers and they are all lost souls.
Oh.
They are all so yeah, and I knew most of them were going to be lost souls because look, just look at what I'm describing. It's like how they're going to find their way. If you're giving them a broken blueprint, how are kids going to find their way? I had to figure it out on my own.
Mhm.
And it was my curiosity and my drive for wanting to know that kept me going. Otherwise, I would have quit a long time ago.
Right.
At any point, I could have given up. But my
Right.
conviction and my curiosity was so much bigger that I'm like, I need to be part of the solution, not the problem.
hmm And you say of seven brothers, that are lost souls. That hurts my heart to hear that.
Mm.
Um, do you um do you work with them or try to get them to go into therapy or get support or, do you have any sort of hope for them? Because, a lot of us have children who at one point or another we may have said, oh gosh, it's a lost cause or a lost soul. Not maybe not to that full extent, but
Yeah,
there's been challenges. So how do you deal with having, seven brothers that
yeah.
are struggling?
So this has been very tough for me to process and to make sense of, right? Um, I'm very sad. Like I wish there was something that I can do. And I know for years I have been trying. Like when I say trying, I would call them, I would send them resources, I would help them with their resumes, I would help them with interviews, I would help them prepare. I was constantly giving all the time for years. Then there came a point where I'm like, I need to take care of myself. There
Mm-hmm.
comes a point where like I'm neglecting myself for giving so much, and they're not
Yeah,
even doing anything about it. Like I need y'all to grow. I need y'all to grow the F up. I got to that point, like, I need y'all to grow up. And yes, I do have hope, but I realized that the message, for some reason, is not being received from me.
right.
But I know that the way that the universe works, that the message will be delivered to people where they can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I tried with the last time I spoke to one of my brothers, my brother Joel, what he told me was, "You're not my mother. And don't talk to me like I'm a little boy." All
Mm-hmm.
right. I said, not a problem. I said, well, know that I'm here whenever you're ready. And I won't interject in your life anymore since I'm not your mother. Not a problem. I'm gonna fall back. So
Right.
then I have fallen back, right? But I have an open door policy. Call me, I'll be
Yeah.
here. Call me
Yeah.
whenever you're ready. I know it's a process that they need to go through and it's going to take time. And sometimes life has to show them the lesson. You might have
Mhm.
to learn the hard way.
Right.
I'm okay with that. And I also have employees because I work with union employees who are older than I am. And maybe in the age of like 30, 40, I hear their stories of like, man, I wish I listened. They give
Mhm.
me hope. Man, I wish I did better when I was younger. My brothers are still young. They're not their age. So that gives me hope because I see my employees like as if they're my brothers. I mean, really,
Yeah.
we're all interconnected, right? So I do have hope, but I think the message needs to come from someone who they can receive it from. Sometimes it needs to be a male figure.
Yes.
Sometimes, and I'm like, I got it, not a problem.
Right. Sometimes it's the messenger.
That's
It's the messenger, not the message. But they also, I'm sure, have heard it's like planting the little seeds. You
that's
plant
right.
the seeds, and at some point, it blossoms. At some point, it clicks. And people
Hmm.
say, oh, okay, I'm going to try that approach, or maybe I'll stop doing this and try this instead. But I think that's right. So you do have hope, but and you also have given boundaries. That's what I hear you saying. I have a boundary. And you're
Yes.
protecting your own mental health and your own mental well-being
Mhm.
and saying, okay, I'm going to allow you to have space and work through this lifing, as we all have life is lifing. I'm going to let you do your thing. Wow, I'll be here. And I love how you said I have an open door policy. So you can call anytime, but I'm going to let you do your thing. So I get that. Do you have any sort of coaches or therapists in your life as well that helps you with, because your perseverance is amazing and your resilience.
Thank you. I really think it's the spirituality piece.
Okay.
And I say that, like, I do have Dr. Vicky, of course, but like before I
Yeah.
met Dr. Vicky, um, I've just had this inner guidance that I've just always followed. My intuition, I've always trusted my intuition because it has just always guided me since I was a kid, since I was like 10 or 12. I always knew what was right and wrong, and I always followed that. How did I know that? How do you know that in a broken environment?
All divine. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. That
So
higher power helping.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I can tap into my intuition. I hear it, I believe it, and whatever I feel is right, I act on. And it has shown me that the decisions are always right when I do that.
That's so great. I love it. I love that you are a walking example of what you say, that you really can have it all, despite the whatever, like despite, whatever challenges we're dealing with, because to be one of 13 and to be living in shelters and five different high schools, I mean, that is on the surface it's daunting and really challenging. And so to overcome that and to be sitting here, as a Columbia graduate and mother of two and a wonderful relationship, it's a beautiful thing to witness. So I'm looking at you and smiling so completely, saying, yes, there's hope. There is hope for everyone, for all of us. And so I love your story. Absolutely love your story. So where is your mother still living now?
No, my mother died the same week my son was born.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to, yeah, my mother died on the 13th of September, and then my son was born on the 16th. So it was another
Wow.
crazy thing because I couldn't go, I had a high risk pregnancy, so I couldn't even go see her. I had to see her on FaceTime.
Oh, wow.
Hmm. So yeah,
That is not that, and this is your 2-year-old?
that's my 2-year-old. Yes.
Oh, and you have a 3-year-old daughter.
Hmm.
Oh,
So,
that's awful. I'm so sorry. Sorry about your loss. I really, really am. I Many of us on the call today are dealing with challenging situations. And it could be anything. It could be caregiving for a loved one or a parent. It could be our children making us a little crazy. Or it could be that we're working on struggling through our own personal dilemmas and challenges. If you could give us advice, one big piece of advice or a few things that you have done or the things that you do in your life to really keep going and to have that perseverance. Can you share some of your practices with us?
absolutely. Yeah, I think the most important thing to mention here is how important it is to work on our inner environment. I think the inner environment is the most important and most powerful lesson that many of us can learn, especially in the culture and society that we live in today. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is we have a lot of trauma from our past, a lot. If we have not dealt with that trauma from our childhood, our young adult years, that stuff is still in our bodies. It's stored in our subconscious memories. And there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it really talks about the science, how that information is really stored in our cells. And it's work that if we don't do, it really resurfaces in all our relationships and even in our leadership style at work.
mhm,
So that to me is one of the most important things. And one of the tools that I used to be able to do that is yes, I started going to therapy, but I journaled more than I went to therapy.
mm,
I was more of my own coach because of my intuitive, connection and listening to my higher self. Journaling, I have about 25 journals. And the
wow,
reason being is that when you journal, you're able to release a lot of your negative thoughts onto the pages of the journal. And I always like to say it's a transfer of energy because we're made up of energy. So if you're constantly ruminating or you're constantly thinking about things, it's just that stays stored in the body. So for
mm,
me, journaling just releases it, whatever it is. I don't worry about grammar or any of that. I just write what I feel. And it helps me process difficult things. It helped me process the loss of my mom. It helped me process, my childhood. It helped me process the loss of my babies. It helped me, it just helps me process information in a way that I can't if I'm keeping it all in my head because it's just too much and then I get a freaking headache. It's too much to hold,
mhm.
and so journaling, and I still journal today. I even have a journal here.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's been like my lifeline. And what's another piece of advice? Mindset is extremely important. Mindset is everything. If you have a fixed mindset, like I remember one of my sisters said this is how I am, this is how I always be. This is how I will always be.
Mhm,
I said, well, that's not good. That means you're not open to change. That means you're not open to learning. Right? So you have to
mm,
have a growth mindset. And one of my professors, Dr. Bonanno at Teachers College, he said you even have to have a flexible mindset, which means you need to be able to be adaptable.
right.
You need to be able to be open to new ideas and new perspectives. Because I think what we don't realize as a culture, at least for, I don't want to say all people, but a good majority, is like we are all human beings. And our culture has created systems and beliefs and ways of being and ways of living that we've just accepted to be true. Not
Mhm,
realizing if we step back and we remove all of these conditionings and we become conscious of our ego, if we become conscious of what we've been told to do, it doesn't align with our inner spirit. There's always tension.
mm,
And
yes.
I've always known that there's the tension. So I always set my own standards. And I
Mhm,
live the way that makes me feel good, not the
mm,
way Instagram or TikTok says I need to be to get all these likes and all these followers. No.
mhm,
And I feel like that's
mhm.
why we have so many people now with like suicidal ideations. We have a loneliness epidemic. We have a mental health crisis. Why is all this happening? We are
Yes,
so disconnected from our inner core. We're so connected from who we're supposed to be because we're too busy listening to everybody else, not listening to ourselves.
that's
And
right.
this is why we're having all these crises. Even our kids, the kids are in crisis too. And one of
Yes.
the professors, Dr. Lisa Miller, she wrote this book called The Spiritual Child.
Mm,
She said children from the time that they're born to the age of 12 have a natural spirituality. What does that mean? They have a connection to that collective and that divine knowledge that we socialize them out of it.
mhm,
We
mhm,
socialize them out of it. And then she said, when we teach children, she said, the research shows that children who have a positive, active relationship to spirituality are 40% less likely to use and abuse to 40% less likely to use and abuse substances, 60% less likely to be depressed as teenagers, 80% less likely to have dangerous or unprotected sex, more likely to have positive markers for thriving and high levels of academic success. And then it goes on to say the spiritual child translates these findings into practical advice for parents, giving concrete ways to develop and encourage their child's well-being as well as their own.
mhm,
So she's at the forefront of bringing spirituality back into our daily lives. And I was like,
mhm.
this woman knew that the times we're living in were coming. I keep thinking that she knew this was coming. But then if we look at history, we see that these cycles have always happened. There's like a birth, there's a peak, and there's a death. And we go through that as individuals and we go through that as a people. And that's what we're experiencing now.
Right. It's the loneliness epidemic that you just said, and Dr. Vicky put in the chat is so deep and so true and so powerful. I think between COVID-19, between social media, as you talked about, social isolation, even though you would think that we're more connected than ever, but we're really by ourselves staring at our phones all day long. And most of us wake up and look at the phone. Last week, our guest said she does not look at her phone at all. She wakes up and she does her breathing and her meditation and her prayers and other things mentally, spiritually, physically before she ever looks at social media. And that's a beautiful practice. The isolation piece is really critical. And so I love what you also said about working on our inner environment and the tool around journaling. Also phenomenal. And I can see how that works, how you writing it down and releasing the negative and focusing on it's like purging forward. I love that phrase too. Purging forward, getting rid of the
Mhm.
negative and focusing on the positive and also the hope that we can have for our families and for ourselves. And that's what you embody. Like you are a walking embodiment of hope. And what can happen when you have that inner curiosity and that desire to have better and to be in a place that feels good and that is walking in alignment with a higher power. I love what you're saying. I think it's amazing. So I wanted to open up the floor to people this morning to see if they have any thoughts or questions or anything to share or anything that might be on your heart that you're dealing with this morning. Please feel free to jump into the conversation and ask Jay a question. And it is also Hispanic Heritage Month. And we talked earlier about Jay being Afro-Latina and some of the things that come with that and growing up as an Afro-Latina. Do you want to share any pieces of that? We were talking about it before our call started.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about this is that my mom raises, nosotros somos puertorriqueña. Afro-Latina never came up.
Oh,
Afro-Latina only came up when we came in contact with the culture. So I'd
oh,
never even heard of Afro-Latina till I was in college.
oh.
So
So
I
were you raised as a Puerto Rican woman
Yeah.
or
Puerto
a Black
Rican.
Puerto
Puerto
Rican?
Rican. Mommy always said nosotros somos puertorriqueños. We're Puerto Rican, period. So those words never were in my vocabulary or in my psyche until literally college. I didn't even know what
Interesting.
Afro-Latina was. I had to Google it.
Oh, that's hilarious. And that is such a thing now.
I know.
So your mother is Puerto Rican. Was your father Black?
Puerto
Okay, so
Rican.
that's oh, he's Puerto Rican too.
Hmm.
Okay, got you, got you, got you. Interesting. So how much does your Puerto Rican heritage, I mean, you're truly a Puerto Rican woman. So
Yes, I
really
got
not,
sazón en adobo.
there's, oh, what'd you say?
I said I got that sazón en adobo in the cabinet in the recao.
Oh,
Yes.
I love it. And your Spanish is amazing. I'm looking at you like, what? That sounds beautiful. I know nothing, sadly. Um, sadly, sadly, sadly. And Nashawn, I see your note. We will make sure we get it on the website, all the latest podcasts. I have been dealing with some of my own personal issues with some caretaking challenges, and we've gotten behind. So we will get that up, Nashawn, last week and all of the other ones that are missing. So apologies for that. But I love that. I love that you walk in your full Puerto Rican self, your full Puerto Rican heritage, and loudly and proudly. I think that's phenomenal. And yes, you're welcome. Any thoughts or questions from anybody that's here today? Anything on your heart that you want to share?
Yeah, Kelly, this is Vicky. Good morning. Good morning,
Good
Jay.
morning. Good morning.
You what you just shared, really struck a chord with me in terms of identity and the influence that culture has on our identities or the conflict that it creates. Can you talk about how you reconciled your mother's words with what the culture is saying when it now appears that cultures, the volume of culture is louder, right? How did you navigate that? And that's one question. And how can we as parents help our children to navigate that? I think that's so powerful what you just recalled, your mother's words. And so, in essence, I'm asking because we're parents, can you just reiterate the power of our mother's words, whether it was positive or not, and the impact? So, because I could keep asking questions, so I'm gonna stop because I think that was about 3 or 4 wrapped into one. But could you address that, please? I think that was really powerful.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I've been struggling with this for a while in the sense of like, do I identify as Afro-Latina? Am I Black Latina? And I'm like, that was never a thing. At home, I was always just Puerto Rican. And mommy always made sure we had so much pride. And Puerto Ricans are very prideful of being Puerto Rican and prideful of their flag and prideful of their food. So for me, it's always like mommy said we're Puerto Rican and that's what we are, period. Those were things that just, my mom did the best that she could, right? Like, and there were things that I wish, she could have been like, I wish she could have been more emotionally available. I wish she could have been a little bit more present in my life. But like she always taught us that family was sacred. And she always taught us that how we identify was always important. And siempre tenemos orgullo. She always talked about orgullo and being just, having pride in who we are. And we were always prideful Puerto Ricans. When we go to the Puerto Rican festival, yo soy boricua, pa que tú lo sepas. Like that was a song too that they would always sing at the Puerto Rican festival. So like that was in our bones. That was ingrained in our psyche. And all of us, all 13 of us, even my brother's dark, dark skin, and he's Puerto Rican, all of us. And we're just so grounded in that because mommy was grounded in that. And every time we'd go to the parades, we were just, it was enforced. It always reminded us that we are Puerto Rican. And even at the Puerto Rican parade, I never heard the word Afro-Latina. There was Black Puerto Ricans, there was white Puerto Ricans, there was in between Puerto Ricans. So it's like, it's always culture. That's why I say these things are socially created. And if we allow them to identify us, they will break us. We need to identify these things for ourselves and for our children and let them know that identity and family is sacred. And it starts at home when you have a healthy family and environment, right? And sometimes family is a little dysfunctional, but there are things you can get that are valuable. Take the good,
Yeah.
take the bad. That's what I've done. I've taken the good and I left the bad.
Take the good and left the bad. And you are a Puerto Rican woman. So let me get that straight. So we are you are Puerto Rican, proudly Puerto Rican. I get that. I understand that. You're not Afro-Latina really, right? You're a Puerto Rican woman. That's how you were raised.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I love that. So I got that. I want to clarify that because that's something I said earlier. That's not true. And so thank you for getting that straight for us. And the family is sacred piece is beautiful because and Dee has her hand up too. So Dee, please jump in. Good
Hi
morning.
again, Janecia.
I see.
Janecia.
Janine.
Yes, sorry about that. So we spoke briefly before the call just about how our personal experiences influence our now calling that we really didn't see as a calling. But what's interesting on this show, we talk about the lack of resources for Black families looking for Black therapists because there is a needed resource dealing with the intersectionality of being Black and mental health. So just hearing your response to Vicky's question about your heritage and how ingrained being Puerto Rican is in the culture and the community. What, in your practice, are there any thoughts to the intersection of being Puerto Rican and mental health in terms of availability? Like we hear about it from the Black perspective a lot, but I actually can't say that I've seen a push for mental health in the Puerto Rican community. So that's one. And how is that different than mental health in any other community?
Mhm. Thank you for that question. And I would agree with you that I haven't seen that push in the Puerto Rican communities. Um, I myself am trying to figure out how do I position myself in this new environment as someone who just graduated and I have the skills and knowledge to provide this service. I'm still trying to iron this out myself. Do I come out as a Puerto Rican who's trying to offer services to just Puerto Ricans, or do I come out as a Puerto Rican or as a human being who's offering services to people who need it? So I don't know what the answer is. I'm still trying to iron this out myself. Just recently, I started identifying as a spiritual well-being expert, and I have the skill and knowledge to work with all people, Black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. I have that diversity of knowledge, and that's where the spirituality piece comes in. So I'm not sure what the best answer is for that right now, but I do see and know that there would be value in having a push for a mental health specialist in that Puerto Rican community. I do know that there is value in that because of the culture. We understand the culture, we understand the language, we understand the nuance. So
Right.
that's also super important. So I'm still trying to iron things out and figure out where I land with this.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think what you just said is exactly right. I mean, you can lead with being an expert, for everyone, but your specialty can also be with people of Puerto Rican descent because there are, like you said, nuances in my day life running an agency. We do marketing for all kinds of people, but our specialty is Black people. And what
Mm,
I love and what I want to do is Black and brown people. Like
mm,
that's very clear. And I'm clear in our mission and vision. But if somebody hires us to do something at the Naval Academy, we absolutely will do that. But what I want to do in my heart and what I feel most connected to and most passionate about is my people, which is
mhm,
Black people. I'm a little
mm,
Black girl from Cleveland. So that is so I think the same is true for you. You have a wonderful ability to talk about spiritual well-being and this, inner spirituality and what you talked about, even the spiritual child that your professor wrote, but your deep connection is with your culture, Puerto Rican culture. And that would be an opportunity to really, there's so few Black therapists and psychiatrists and doctors, even 5%. I'm sure the same is true in the Latino community. So I
mm.
think there's an opportunity to really lean in there, but still do both, do it all, but really lean into a space where I'm sure the need is great.
Absolutely. Dr.
So,
Vicky's been telling me forever, do content in Spanish. I'm like, I'm still working on it. It's Spanglish
yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, it doesn't sound like Spanglish at all. At all. And there's another question in here, Jay, that says, is there a stigma about mental health in the broader Hispanic community as there is in the Black community? Because we talked about that earlier. We don't talk about it in the
Mhm.
Black community. No one talks about it. My family members still say, you talk too much, you share too much, always. And, there is a stigma. Is it the same in the broader Hispanic community?
Yes, it's absolutely the same. And that's what I want to dismantle. I actually read an article in one of my courses that I need to find that article again, but it talked about how seeing a therapist or getting counseling or seeing a psychologist was actually marketed for crazy white people. So
Mm,
that Black people wouldn't want to be Black or Hispanic people wouldn't want to be considered crazy for seeking it. Like that was
mhm,
intentional so that Black people and people of color wouldn't seek support. So that's where the stigma came from. It was the marketing that was so
mhm,
effective.
mhm. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's historical too, and the Black community goes back generations. It's forever. Like no one would talk about it. It's like a hush
Mm-hmm.
hush, and people were thought of as being crazy, or we need to go pray it out. We're gonna go to church this Sunday. Like all those things, there was never any real conversation, and still today, still a stigma. So it's the same in the Black and Brown community. That's interesting.
Mind
Um,
you, that's why I talk about journaling. What does journaling do? Makes you talk about it. It's a
yeah,
counter to that. And
yes.
private. And it's your own private journal. So if you don't want to go and talk to someone about it, you at least see what's on your heart, what's weighing you
Mhm.
down. You can see it on the pages.
Right. I think there's a woman named Alicia, who was here as a guest back in, I want to say January. She leads these journaling workshops and phenomenal. I think it's called the 12. What is it, Dr. Vicky? Remind me, the 12, not the 12 agreements, but it's
12, 12, the
12,
12,
12.
12 community.
The
Mhm.
12-12 community is phenomenal, and she starts these journaling workshops regularly. And she, like you, has different journals with different topics and really helps teach people about the power of journaling and getting your thoughts out. And she has prompts. So I'm sharing that out loud to say it seems like it's something that you might want to explore as well, given your
Yeah,
power of journaling and what that's done for you. That's phenomenal. It might be an opportunity as well.
thank you for that.
So the 12-12 community, Alicia Johnson. Dr. Vicky just put it in the chat, but she's phenomenal
Thank you.
as well. So I want to, I love what you're sharing. I appreciate you being here. I want to make sure if anybody else has anything they want to ask or share that we have time to do that. If there's one thing that you would tell yourself, your 10-year-old self now, in your current, I don't know how old you are, that's irrelevant, but where you are now, if there's one thing you would do differently, looking back on your life, is there anything that you would do differently or anything you would change within your power, within your control?
Anything that I would do differently?
Hmm.
Honestly, I can't think of anything at the moment. And I say that because I feel like a lot of my decisions have really come from a divine place. And
Yes.
I've always done my best to really tune in, to listen and act accordingly, to act and, to step into full integrity, to step into who I am and to trust who I am. And I've been
Mhm.
very grounded because of that,
Yes,
so I think I've done the best I could have given my circumstances, and it's led me to where I am today.
that's phenomenal. I love that. It's in essence, your journey has been led, divinely, and you're walking in the steps that have already been ordered for you, which I think is beautiful. And that's what we all aspire to. We all aspire to be clear on, okay, this is my purpose, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and follow the path that's already prescribed. That's the hard work for most of us. And
Yeah,
then also what you said earlier about your brothers, realizing that you do the best you can, and at some point you say, okay, it's really up to you. I can't do this for you. I can help and I can be here as a support, but I can't live your life for you. I can't, help you until you're ready to help yourself, and that part is hard as a loved one with your
mhm, mhm.
brothers, as you shared earlier, with our children, with other people that we love, our friends, other family members. It's hard when you want to just say, just do this, but the person has to get there on their own. That's our sunrise story. Like that's the journey of all of us as parents is really learning how to take a step back, learning how to say, I love you and I'm here
Yeah,
and it's your life. You know, that's the hard
absolutely.
part.
Yeah.
Kelli, I have another question.
Okay.
Um, wanted to get in there before we end the call. Jay, how did the way your mother parented you and your siblings affect the way you now parent your children?
Hmm.
Like what you shared about how her husband, you know, would buy food for his children that, he shared with your mom biologically while the rest of you were hungry.
Yeah.
That was an example that really
Mhm.
touched my heart. And so how did experiences like that and as well as good experiences affect the way you now parent your children during this time? I know it was different times, culture was a little different, but can you share a little bit about how it has impacted your parenting? Because my young adult is now a parent, right? And I often watch and witness the way she mothers in contrast to how I mothered her.
Mm.
So, can you share that? I think it would be helpful for me and hopefully some other moms who are listening this morning.
Absolutely. It's a really good question. Um, what comes to mind immediately is I always remember my mom being a kind woman. Like she was never malicious. She never had bad intents. I was always clear on that. She was always doing her best. But what stood out to me was her inability to be emotionally available in the way that I need her to be. Like, I remember there were times at school when I wanted her to show up, to come to some of the PTA meetings, to come to some of the events. I just wanted someone to be present, and she wasn't there, or my stepfather. So that was a vivid thing for me, wanting to have my somebody support me. So when I think about my children, I think about that emotional support is so important. And it's really interesting because, like, I don't know if I just had the awareness to just see her trying to do her best, that I could see the goodness in her heart, but it didn't come until I became older that I realized how much I needed that. And even when I became a mother, when I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I need my mother, and she's just not emotionally available. So then I needed a therapist to help me through the extra layers of anxiety that I had in case I would miscarriage every time I was pregnant. So I had extra layers of hardship when I was pregnant, and I felt like I needed her. So it was always that emotional part that really struck me. And now that I'm a mom, I want to make sure that my kids know I am emotionally available and physically available. Like, my daughter had ballet the other day. That was her first day. I was like, I'm not going to work. Honestly, I was like, fuck this job. I'm out. I took the day and I went to make sure that I was there on her first day, and I was inside. I was helping the teacher. I was participating. I was engaged. That's what I wanted my mom to do. I wanted you to see me. I wanted you to show me you cared. I wanted you to see that I'm important in your life. But being one out of 13, she had to divide herself so many ways on top of surviving her abusive husband, because this guy was emotionally and physically abusive. So it's like, it's a lot to weigh for a kid.
Yeah.
So, but now I made sure I chose the right husband, the right partner. I made sure I healed myself too, and that I knew what I wanted as a woman before I invited a man into my life, and that he knew how grounded I was and confident as a woman. And if you're going to be a part of my life, these are my standards and these are my boundaries. So he was on board with it. And we just had this partnership of like, we're going to work this out. If it don't work, it don't work. But if we're going to make it work, then here's what we need to learn and get better at. All right. Either in this for the long haul or you out. Like, we didn't get married until 6 years. Like, we wanted to make sure this is the person, because we're not getting divorced. 6 years we waited, and we were just like testing each other. Okay, either this is gonna work or not. When we hit the 6 year mark and we saw that we were willing to read the books, we were willing to go to therapy, we were willing to have the hard conversations, we were willing to, to cry and to do all these hard things. Then we're like, this is my person. Now we're ready. And then, then we had kids after the fact. We wanted to make sure each individual as a person was whole and healed. He had to work on his own things. Then as a couple, we had to work on our own things before we brought our kids into our lives. If we did it too early, it would have been chaos and dysfunction because we weren't ready. Our inner environment and our collective environment wouldn't have been ready to raise children. And that dysfunction is what we push onto children and what they start to learn and observe. But now our kids can see us in our most healed form.
That's wonderful.
And when we have disagreements, we don't argue, we talk. And we do it in front of the kids. And then when we're done, I go to my daughter and I say, Isabella, I want you to see that Daddy and I are not arguing, we're having a disagreement, and it's important to have a conversation to make sure we're both on the same page.
That's awesome.
Do you see what just happened? Mommy and Daddy are not mad at each other. We're having a conversation. And that's what you do when two people love each other. I always explain to her what she saw so that she has context and she's not making up what she thinks in her mind, which is what happened a lot in my environment. We were left to make sense of what was happening. No one explained things to us. And that's the worst thing you can do to kids. You have to explain to them what is happening. I always wanted to know why. I was that kid. Why is this happening? Why you're telling me to do this? And I wanted to know why, because I had intuitive guidance. And if it didn't align with what I felt I needed to do in here, something's off. So you need to explain to me why. So that's what I do with my kids. I always explain why. I show up emotionally, physically, and I explain things.
Oh, I love that. The why is so deep. I'm thinking back to so many things with my own children that had I explained, this is why we're doing this. This is why. That would have been major, I think, and it's very eye-opening. That's a beautiful way. And I love the fact that you said this is a conversation. We just had a conversation because you can have differences of opinion,
Right.
but you have conversations about it. And then you explain to your 2-year-old. That's just amazing. Or a 3-year-old. Amazing. I love that. That's great. Great advice. It's a simple thing to ask to explain why, the why behind the what.
And it acknowledged them. You're not too young to understand, because guess what? The children understand more than we do. We
Yes,
just
they
need to
do.
give them the earthly language. They have divine language. We have earthly words that we made up, really.
That's
Language
right.
is made up words. So we need to give them the language of this universe. They
That's
have
right.
the spiritual one. So
That's right.
us explaining it to us allows them to see if what we're saying aligns with what they intuitively know.
That's right.
And my daughter shows me every day when I explain something to her, she goes, "Okay, mommy, I understand." Confirming that what I
Right.
said and what she knows intuitively is in alignment. So I'm also teaching her how to listen to her intuition and listen to her body, you know.
So good. And you're modeling what a healthy relationship looks like. That is invaluable. You're modeling what you didn't see growing up. And so that's phenomenal. You're doing such an amazing job,
Thank you,
with
Kelly.
these 2 little people, these little humans, and with your own relationship. That's just it's a beautiful, you are a beautiful testimony to what's possible, despite all the odds, despite everything you went through as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult. You are a witness to what can happen when we listen to a higher power, walk in that space, get curious, have a
Mm,
willingness, as you said earlier, having a willingness to grow and to learn and to be better and to be that model that you always wanted from your mom. You are that person now. It is beautiful to witness.
thank you,
So
Kelly.
I really thank you for who you are, for sharing your story, for your journey, for bringing these 2 little people into the world in such a loving environment, and for giving us all hope that we all can have it all, as you say. We too can all have it all. That is, you are that beautiful, beautiful vision of that. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This has been phenomenal. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to both of our big sisters and mentor, Dr. Vicky, who will close us out in a prayer this morning. Thank you again.
Thank you again, Jay. Thank you, Kelly and Dee. This is indeed beautiful. God, we thank you for another day, beautiful day that you've given to us. We're grateful today. We're thankful for the opportunity to grow again, to heal again, to learn again, to be reminded of how divine each of us is. Thank you for the space to reconcile some things that we may not have understood in the past. Thank you that even though we may feel like we missed the mark in parenting our children in different spaces and places, thank you for the opportunity to heal even those spaces, not only in our children, but in ourselves, in the inner child in each of us. We thank you for your wisdom that you consistently share. Thank you for Jay and her family. Thank you for the opportunity to experience truth through her lens and continue to bless her work, continue to grow her opportunities and her influence. And thank you for the SonRise Project community, this Sunday support call. Bless every home represented, bless every parent, every child that we are here advocating for, that we love. And we pray now a special prayer. Continue to bless Kelly and Dee as they lead the charge, as they advocate for us while caring and advocating and loving for their own families. We don't take that for granted. Thank you for giving them great grace to do what they do and to be who they are. And we give you glory for these things. And we are looking forward to the opportunity to convene again on next Sunday. We thank you and we praise you. Amen. Have a powerful day. Thank you again, Jay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Vicky. Have a great day, everyone. We'll be back next week. Have a beautiful day, and thank you, Jay.